Hey, Striglines, and here's what I've been automating this week with AutoHotkey. Let me start off with, actually, during the week I made a video demonstrating how you could programmatically connect to like these type of menus and send commands, and it doesn't interrupt with what the user is doing and stuff, which is a great way if you don't have COM available. It's a great way, it's super fast, it's reliable. My next one was I wanted to make some videos demonstrating how to use the control click, control get, control set text functionality, and I was trying to hunt down some good tools for helping show what the controls are and basically assist with the programming. I found one I really liked. The other one is the regular Windows Spy, but each of those tools had a ton of extra things in them and just so much information. And it, to me, anytime you have a lot of stuff you don't need, it just adds a lot of confusion. So I borrowed, I shouldn't say borrowed, because I basically just took the scripts that I found and then cut out the vast majority of the stuff I didn't think that we would need. So the first one is let's do the AuSpy. So let me launch this, and you'll see it looks obviously a lot like the tool we're normally seeing, right? I just basically said don't show everything and just trim it down, and this was an easy one. It's not exactly the way I want it, but as you're over something, let me click here. You'll see now the two things that we need here is that class NN, which actually I'm going to change that to, even though it is class, to me it's the control that we're going to use control get and control set for those things. So button 4 is what we need to know, and then we also need to know up above either you want like the AHK underscore class AutoHotkey GUI or the window, which is the very first line. So the top three, let me Windows A, let me hit that, so that'll freeze it. So these things we need to know in conjunction with this, and so I'm gonna. This one works fine, but then you have to go and pick and choose. It's simple and it gets exactly what I want. I want to change this to just so it doesn't say class NN, so it says control, even though it is class NN. Again, for people who don't do this a lot, you're like, well, where's my control? What? I don't understand. Here it says control under the mouse, and I get it, but still, like, why not tie it together, right? Because mainly the command in AutoHotkey is control get, control set, whatever. And so I thought, hey, that makes a lot more sense to me. So that's the first tool I'm not in love with, but it works. The second one I like more, but I goofed something up, but it's close. So there was this Windows Spy tool that had like 6 other tabs and all this information. This window itself had a lot more information, but what I like is it's similar to the IWB2 Learn tool that I can drag in here and see what I'm highlighting. This actually shows me, here's the control. I've changed this to say control instead of class and then, so I did in this one. The parent window, this I want to be the high end, this one, and I'll probably default it to the class, the AHK underscore class. And I thought I did it, and I did something wrong. But what's really cool is check this out. So no matter what program you're in, like this, I shouldn't say no matter what program control you're in, but so this says word border. What's cool about this is, let's say, wow, and I'm going to hit set text. And look, it updates in like the program you're in. And this is a great way to test and make sure, hey, am I on the right thing? Is it going to work? And you can test it. Works great. The other thing I like about this one is there's a tree and a find now, and this is what I'm going to ask Maestrith for some help here, just because for him it'll be 2 seconds. For me, I'd spend hours. But when I did something with these buttons, I can't click them. So but the hotkey still works. So Alt-T will pull up the tree, and I like this to be able to see what the other things are, and we can easily see what they are, right? And I can click to it and then change it. So I'm leaning towards this one being my default tool over the other one I just demonstrated. The find also, you could go and search if you know what the name of it is. So let's say this was site, and it starts showing you what's there. I don't, for some reason. Oh, maybe it does. No, I don't know. I'm not sure if it jumps to it, but I'll build that in anyway. So this tool, once I have this thing locked down, I'm going to make some videos demonstrating how to use control set, control get, and all that stuff. I think that's going to be pretty awesome. It's one of those things. Yeah, a lot of the newer tools like Microsoft Office and stuff don't use the old style controls, but man, there's still a lot to do. And when you can, again, these getting and setting controls and control clicking and stuff doesn't interfere with you using your computer. So I think they're great ways that are way underrated in how we use them. So let's see. Then the other one I've been playing with is this UI automation, UIA. And let me just show one. Oh, hey. Oh, it jumped out of the lower one. So I'm going to launch it. this is an example of another backbone interface like the accessibility tool from Backbone. And right now I have it, if I hit a hotkey, it'll show me what's the text that is under, like even over here. It shows me the text that is under my mouse, right? Which is a cool example. I was playing with this, and this allows me to see some of the hierarchy, some of the parent structure, and it'd be really cool at some point, because all the information is there. We could build a similar tool to what I just showed with the AuSpy tool, with that hierarchy and understanding, and be able to know where to click, and then hopefully be able to I think we can get data pretty well, but to set data. The great thing about the UI automation stuff is it probably is in almost every Windows program like that there is, because it's a fundamental thing they build into it nowadays. At least that's my understanding of it. So that'd be pretty cool. Another one I've been working on that we're not ready to demonstrate anything on yet, but Jackie had he's been doing stuff in an Android environment called Knox and automating with AutoHotkey, but he was using the ADB bridge, and he mentioned this mini touch library, which is much faster at updating and getting and setting data inside the Android extension environment. And so I'm trying to work to figure out how do we access that with AutoHotkey, because it'd be, you know, more and more things are turning to apps instead of browsers and this and that, and it's going to be a great thing if we can automate that with AutoHotkey. It'll open up a lot of doors for people doing stuff with AutoHotkey to be able to keep doing stuff if they only have an app available. Another fun one, which I had mentioned, was when I was working with Maestrith of the copying to RTF from here. Let me demonstrate what he ended up doing. This is a cool one. I've seen some libraries on it, but he actually rewrote it a bit. So this is Maestrith's. I should add that here. So this is Maestrith's example, where here is a string. Now it looks crazy, right? But this is RTF formatting, and so if I run this, I'm going to run it, and now let me bring over something that can handle RTF. When I paste it, it put this text to the clipboard, and we can kind of see here it's doing the font Tahoma. Let me see if I can scroll over. Well, let's leave this visible, and then I'll scroll over. So here's a color, red, blue, green, and it basically kind of works to me like a style sheet. The beauty is you don't actually have to write this from scratch. What you can do is paste your text into WordPad, save it as an RTF file, and then it will give you this string, and then you could push that into memory, and then that way, like if you wanted a hotkey or a hot string to have the replacement done in RTF, then that's how you can do it. Now there are libraries already doing this. This was a really interesting example, because I was Maestrith, I should say, he tried to explain it to me. It was definitely over my head, but basically he has said something about there was some weird thing with AutoHotkey that you couldn't. There was something with the memory that you couldn't push it in. You had to basically let go of it with AutoHotkey and then do some stuff with it and then come back and then access it after you've done that. It was something new to him too, so it took him a while, but he kind of cracked that how to do it. And then it's also, by the way, I can see the characters down here. It also handles UTF-8 characters, so that was pretty cool. So that was another one that he did, but I was working with him on it tangentially. The webinar we had on runtime errors this week was great. I learned a ton. I think there was some great stuff I learned just from having to do it, and I actually used it on the next example here. I'm gonna mention, but it was a really cool way to help understand a lot more about how you can bulletproof your code. The second half of the second hour, we kind of went through some intro to it stuff in the first hour, and then at around 20 to 30 minutes in the second hour, GeekDude came on and said, hey, let me demonstrate some of the ways I've used it. And he brought up a lot of great examples demonstrating how he does stuff, and how if you're using other people's classes and libraries, if they have this stuff built into it, it's a great way to help understand if something goes wrong with the code, what the kind of logic and stuff you want to do, and also why you'd build it in for other people. Even if you don't know what to do with the error, they might have something planned to do. So it was a lot of stuff I hadn't thought through or never done. Like I said, I don't normally share my scripts with a big group of people, right? I write them for myself and maybe one other person, and I don't have to worry that much about runtime errors because I just fix it as we go. But anyway, it was a good webinar. Go check it out. So the last one, I have a new slogan. It's a statement. It's great power. With great power comes great abilities to screw things up. So I was working with Studio, and Studio, you can have the backups on, and it basically creates a folder and then a different version of each script under it, a different timestamp, and it's great for having backups. But at some point, I'm like, I'm kind of done with all the stuff I've been doing. I don't care if I have the backups because everything I have is good. I want to go clear out all the backups. So I was working on, let me see here. There we go. This script. And this basically says find any folder that is just the folder name with just this. If it is, remove the folder and all the files underneath it, right? It worked great. Started playing with it, worked great. The trouble was when I first wrote it. So and I had this, I'm like, hey, let me when I'm doing this, let me look at it and make sure that it's doing what I think it's doing. So I had commented this out, and let me do this. So I at the time I didn't have the brackets. So I said, basically, look at my B drive, which is everything under Dropbox, which for me is my whole world. I mean, it's like almost everything ever that I care about. And I'm like, hey, do this. Okay, yeah, it's working great. In AutoHotkey, if you just have one line, you don't need the brackets. And then I switched it to this, which was also fine because it basically does this and this. But then I, for some reason, added this back in, and this ended up saying, hey, if you find this, show a message box. This next line isn't contained in this if statement. So I basically deleted everything under my Dropbox everywhere, which was really a joy. It was a lot of fun. I was so happy to have done that. And there's a lot of sarcasm there. That's why, by the way, you see all these little white squares up here instead of the icons. It hasn't quite, I got to restart and it'll take care of it. But everything, all my desktop, all my files, everything is under including all the shortcuts and all the icons of the shortcuts, and my start page, which had all the other references and their pictures, and then just all my files I work on. So it was a load of fun. Thankfully I can, log into Dropbox and pick a folder, pick the folders and say restore everything under it. So I was able to revert. It was really weird in Dropbox. There's also a page where it says show deleted, show your deleted, and then you should be able to pick what you've deleted and say restore. I don't know if it hadn't updated yet because that wasn't working, but I think I'm all back to having everything as it was. But just remember, if you're doing something like this, using the brackets is a much safer approach, because then I don't have to, everything in between this is going to be applied to that filter. So even whether I turn this on or off, it doesn't matter. Now I haven't quite finished this yet, because what I want to do is probably change this to be flexible. I might try to attempt to build it into a AutoHotkey Studio plugin. I know there's ways to do that in it. As long as I get it to work properly, then I might do that and make it available. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a better day than I am. That was a big panic for me, but I think I'm back where I am. So take care, keep automating. Cheers.